At the end of the day, baseball does not care about your feelings. What is the thing that you can do better than anybody else? And what can you double down on in order to separate? Fold or fight? I chose to fight. There was one moment that completely changed the trajectory of my baseball career, and it didn't happen on a field. I had just gotten pulled into a room by my athletic director, and I was told to settle. He said that Division I baseball wasn't realistic for me. That meeting changed everything. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Ian Miller. I was a 9-hole hitter from Little League all the way to the big leagues. I was just like you. And this past week, I was working with the Division I program, Gardner-Webb, out in North Carolina, man. And I was telling this story about my career, and I was setting the scene about my senior fall. My grades were not good. Baseball was not popping for me. My worth, how I viewed myself, was tied to my baseball stats and how I was performing on the field. I had a performance identity, and I had just been cut by a premier travel team the summer before. So here I am in the senior season of my high school career, trying to be a Major League Baseball player, and my athletic director pulled me in, and my high school coach was in there as well, and they told me to sit down in this old, smelly room. So I go and I sit at this table, and they laid out newspaper clippings, dude. This is like 2009, 2010, back in the day before everybody was doing Palm Pilots and, Nintendo Switches and stuff. So he pulls out a Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper and slaps it down on the table. Ted Torrance, God rest his soul. He told me that these are their stats. This is their size. Do you see the average size of the Villanova baseball team, or the, at the time, Temple baseball team, or the Penn State baseball team? These were the D1 teams in Pennsylvania. He lays it out. He says, dude, these guys are mammoth. These guys are big. These guys are grown men. Ian, you are 5'10", 150 pounds. You have no business being a Division I baseball player. Let me show you where you don't measure up. And I remember being in this room, being talked to by my athletic director, who had been around forever. The guy was as old as dirt. Sorry, Ted. And he was telling me why I wasn't worthy of being a Division I baseball player. He laid it out. He told me that it would be a safer bet and a little bit easier for me in my collegiate career if I settled and went to a lesser program with maybe a little bit more opportunity, where I could play it safe and I could probably bet on what my career would look like. I remember walking out of that room, and I was thinking, like, dude, maybe they're right. Okay? Maybe like I'm just not built for this. Maybe I am a little bit too ambitious. I want to be a D1 player, but I can't even hit 300. I want to be a D1 player. It's my senior year, and I haven't even hit above 300 on varsity yet. I played varsity for 1 year as a junior. So I walk out of there with my tail a little bit between my legs. And at that time, every single external sign, I mean, like everything, every factor outside, the love for the game, dude, my numbers, how much respect I was getting on the field, dude, it was all pointing to saying that my athletic director was right. The stuff that he was telling me was correct. And then all of a sudden, like, something shifted, right? I came to a realization that, like, I need to be different than those guys. I want to maybe one day be in the big leagues anyway. So those guys at the D1 level that have that size and that talent, I got to do shit different than them anyway in order to separate. So I had this core realization where, like, dude, okay, my talent and my numbers and maybe my size aren't going to be enough to stand out against these guys. So, like, my mindset and my habits are going to have to separate me. That's the stuff that they aren't taking serious. So maybe I'll double down on that stuff, and I'll be better than them at that, and I'll be different. I came to this realization that I had to be a Division I baseball player before I ever played Division I baseball. Be, do, have. We've talked about this at a high level, and now this is what I am working with my Division I programs on. We're talking Gardner-Webb. We're talking Monmouth, dude. We're talking Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU. These guys are nasty, and we are talking about the be, do, have concept. Be, that's your mindset. You need to be that guy, Ian. You want to be a D1 baseball player, and you're not very good at baseball, and you're not 100% committed and serious, dude, you need to be that guy first. My mindset, how locked in I was, how committed I was. I needed to be that guy. Then I needed to do those things, the habits, the training, dude, the preparation. Be, do. I started doing that stuff. Then I started having the results. Then I started having the outcomes I wanted. Then I started having the respect. It's that be, do, have framework. I wanted to have a Division I career and I wanted to have a D1 lifestyle. I wanted to be a D1 player, but I didn't become that. It's all about having that mindset and then doing the work and then having that stuff. It's not in reverse order. I started absolutely tricking myself into believing in my ability through small wins. We've talked about stacking wins at a high level. There is stuff that you know you need to do and you need to get done before you can do the things that you want to do. Do the things that you know you have to do so that you can then do the things that you want to do stress-free. If you are intermingling the two and you are prioritizing fun and relaxation and other things that don't drive the needle in your favor, dude, you are going to suffer when you are trying to lock in. Prioritize the stuff that you need to do, and then you will have the things that you want. That's what stacking small wins is about, man. I stopped locking into that external factors, dude. So I didn't need external validation in order to keep going. My standard allowed me to do that. I showed up every day. I was consistent, and my mindset ended up propelling me past those guys that were more physical and had better stats than your boy. That day, I stopped asking, why me? I came to that realization, and it all of a sudden was no longer, why me? Why am I 5'9", 5'10"? Why am I 150 pounds? Why can't I get the ball out of the infield? I automatically started asking, what now? What do I need to do to prove I belong? Whose spot do I have to take? What do I need to do? What are the actions I need to take? And what's next? There's a hard realization that everybody's going to have to face at some point. There is just doubt left and right. You are dealing with problems, and at some point you are going to come to that realization that your problems don't matter to everybody else. Your problems aren't unique. The struggles that you're going through aren't different necessarily than everybody else, right? They might be a different magnitude. They might look a little different here and there, right? But everybody's going through some shit, dude. Right? Everybody's going to doubt themselves. Everybody's going to have limiting beliefs, right? At the end of the day, baseball does not care about your feelings. It only rewards consistency. That's why we talk about resetting so much. So you caught 0 for 4 yesterday, right? Baseball doesn't care. He doesn't care. The scout up in the stands doesn't care. So why are you tied to it? You need to show up the next day. You need to show up today enthusiastic about getting after it. And you need to reset so that you can be your best self, dude. It's about being consistent. It's not about being perfect. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to catch 0 for 4s. But you're supposed to show up the next day and be able to bounce back. Baseball doesn't care about your feelings. Your problems aren't unique and different than everybody else's, man. Everybody's going through some stuff. Can you bounce back and be consistent, right? The guys who last and propel forward, make it to the big leagues, are the ones who just keep showing up the same way, right? No matter what's thrown at them. If you're having a good day, great. Can you bounce back and be the same way tomorrow? If the game is absolutely taking a dump on you, can you bounce back and be the same tomorrow? The external circumstances cannot impact this internal voice, all right? You need to be the guy that continues to be consistent. Let's talk about that meeting with that athletic director that I just opened this entire episode with, man. Think about that. Think about that. You need to show up the same way every day. If I had listened to that guy, none of this would have ever happened, right? Not D1, not pro ball, not the 9-hole. That meeting absolutely lit the fuse. So if you are going through some stuff, things aren't working out for you on the field, you're being propelled in a different direction, you feel like there's some adversity, dude, it very well could be shaping you and propelling you and molding you into what is next. You have no idea. The only thing that you can do is continue to show up and continue to show out. Yesterday's stats and the stuff that happened yesterday is done. Let it go. From that absolute decision that I made, where it was no longer why me, and then it's what now? What do I need to do to get to where I'm going? came absolute momentum. I started focusing on, I don't know why I did that. I started focusing on the things that are going to drive the needle in my favor. I started getting rid of the stuff that didn't matter, outside noise, opinions, right? Momentum came from that stuff, dude. I started showing improvement, not just like on the field, but off the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, dude, in my personal life. I started getting some interest, dude. There started being some rumblings about me a little bit, right? Not necessarily from high level programs, but some D1s. Didn't get any offers, man, but I ended up getting a walk on spot. And then, of course, I ended up getting drafted. The stuff that ended up separating me from everybody else ended up being my mental toughness. It ended up being my separator. What is the thing that you can do better than anybody else? And what can you double down on in order to separate? You might not know what it is right now. That's fine. I didn't necessarily know what it was until it needed to become that thing. Mental toughness was my separator. And I found out about that my senior year of high school, freshman year, all the way on to the end of my career. It took me like 17 years to figure that out. Okay? Just because you don't know your thing yet doesn't mean that you suck. Mental toughness was my separator. You need to find out what yours is. The lesson applies to every single player listening, man. External voices, those factors can only limit you if you let them. What else are they going to do, man? Give you fake confidence? Screw that stuff. Stop listening to it. Tune it out, man. Focus on your process. That's the only thing that matters. Your consistency. That's what you can control. Limit that stuff. Don't let anybody else, don't let like their ceiling become your roof, okay? The moment that you stop waiting for absolute permission from everybody else, that's when everything changes, man. Let other people have those limiting beliefs. Don't tie yourself to that stuff, man. Do you and lock in on the stuff that you need to do. Own it. Every single player has a make or break moment. The one that forces a choice, fold or fight. I chose to fight. And that decision changed everything. Hopefully it does for you as well. Keep grinding. It's worth it. Keep grinding.